Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us. Grey Cup on the way. Do us a favor. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't smashed it already. We can't thank you. I say this often. We can't thank you all enough, but there's no other way to say it. Like, we've seen some great growth the past couple weeks. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Benny, where can they find us on social media?
Yeah, you can find us at Ray Benny Sports. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Also, check us out on Reddit and Discord. And actually, we're on Blue Sky too now. I don't know how much we're going to post there just yet, but check us out there. And also, don't forget to leave us a rating on your favorite podcast provider.
Are we still on Threads?
Yeah, we got Threads too, I think.
Not taken off yet? I don't think so.
No, I don't think it is. This Blue Sky seems like it's coming up. We'll see.
All right. Let's go on to some Winnipeg Blue Bomber talk and Grey Cup talk, brought to you by Fahrenheit Airbrushing. Stand out on the ice, pavement, field, or in the stands with a custom airbrush helmet, goalie, or any type of project. A local Manitoba business with affordable solutions. Check out Fahrenheit Airbrushing. Fahrenheit Airbrushing on Facebook, or call them at 204-891-7431.
And don't forget to tell them that Ray and Benny sent you.
I should find a jingly way of saying that phone number, like they have on CJOB for some of those, like, you know.
He needs to have that rhythm though, the phone number, right?
What's the
like
first
pizza hotline kind of number?
Yeah, do you have any commercials that you remember from CJOB? Listen to games as a kid? Does one pop to mind?
My memory is terrible, so no, I don't.
See, my memory is pretty good. Yes. Pretty bad, but I remember some stupid stuff. I remember no fooling with pooling. See, you know it. I just recall it faster.
Yeah, I need the push every time.
Let's move forward to Grey Cup talk, Winnipeg Blue Bomber talk. What's one word you'd use to describe this matchup? You want to go first?
No, you go ahead. I don't like my word really, but you go.
Okay. I'm going to go throwback. We look at the way the CFL was played in the 90s and 2000s. You know, it was all the way about airing the ball out, 5 receiver sets, lots of shotgun. You know, talking about Doug Flutie, Danny Mack, Kent Austin. I can go on and on. Name Al Calvillo, Dunnigan, of course, 700-yard game. I'll even throw Bo Levi Mitchell in there in the Gunslingers, and you'll still see some 5,000-yard seasons, but for the past 4 Grey Cups in the past 4 seasons, to be honest with you, there has been a shift to physical ball. You look at the past 3 Grey Cup champions, the Alouettes and the Argos, the way they can play physical ball. There's been a bit of a shift. Maybe it's because of the lack of quality QBs in the league that you have to lean more on the power running game and trying to force your way there and good defense. But yeah, I think it'll be more of a throwback, where it's tight defense, rushing game. We saw it in the first couple games, 16-14, 14-11. It's a safe bet to say it's going to be who controls the line of scrimmage physically. It's a throwback, I think. It'll be a good fight. And both have good rotations on the D-line. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, throwback.
That's a good one, because I was thinking back to it too, going, yes, I feel like this is going to be more of a defensive battle, especially what we've seen between these two teams for the last 2 games, as well as even the last Grey Cup they played each other. It was more of a slog until the end when a few points got scored. I just went with rematch because, again, it's coming back from 2 years ago where the Bombers lost to the Argos in the Grey Cup. The Bombers are heavily favored in that game, and the Argos just got it done. And they made enough plays to throw the Bombers off. But yeah, I love your word, because yes, I feel like it's going to be more of a slog, and it's going to be probably a defense that wins this championship, right? Like they always say, defense wins championship. I think that's going to be the case in this one. It's going to be the defense that can make the other offense make more mistakes.
Which game was it where the Toronto D-line stopped Strevler? And the question is, should they have gone for the field goal? Was that the first? That was the first game?
Well, it had been the first one, yeah, because Strevler didn't play the second. But yes, that was the first one deep in their own end. Deep in Toronto's end.
So. And that's the one coming out in the third quarter that, like, nobody scored. And there was like 7 punts. So we might see something like that again.
Damn. Yeah, I don't expect it to be different and all of a sudden be a 40-34 game here, this time around, especially with Argbuckle being the quarterback of the Argos. and how
Yeah.
good the Argos D has played against the Bombers.
Both teams can employ a physical running game.
Yeah.
Bombers a little more consistently, I'd say.
Yes, for sure.
What storyline intrigues you the most? You go first this time.
It's going to be the battle of the lines, really. And especially the Bombers O line versus the Argos D line and their rush.
Yeah.
12 sacks in 2 games for this Argos team against the Bombers, 7 last game. And the funny thing is, the Bombers were in both of those and probably still should have pulled them out.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before with the field goals and all that. So this will be interesting to me to see what adjustment the Bombers can make. We saw the O-line of the Bombers play a very good game against Saskatchewan. Zach Collaros, I think, went down once, and that was after he had already thrown the ball. So yeah, we're gonna have to see what the Bomber O-line can do if they can slow down that pass rush. But you're also gonna, the Argos are gonna be ready as well, especially that D line and those guys on that D line. They're not gonna be like, hey, we're gonna do the exact same thing as last game. They're gonna have new wrinkles in there, and it's gonna be tough. And we'll see which line comes out on top.
Field goals and that pick six.
Yes, from the first game. Yes, yeah.
Ooh. The storyline, I'm going to give a couple. I'll be quick though. In this game, will the Bombers end their winless streak? I know it's a nagging, but that's there. It's underlying. It's the underlying energy. The Bombers, especially and more probably the fans, need to get over that. But it's hard when you've not beaten that team. Like maybe Saskatchewan kind of feels that way against the Bombers, but they're still 4-8. They've taken 4 from the Bombers out of 12. We've taken 0. So that has to change. And also, I'm interested in the Dinwiddie passing knowledge onto Arbuckle because we witnessed Dinwiddie as a backup coming in the Grey Cup to start. Mind you, Arbuckle has a lot more experience than Dinwiddie at that time.
Yeah.
We've seen Arbuckle since what, 2017, 2018, 2016, around that area.
Yeah.
I know I'm casting my net pretty big there, but around that area. And he's beaten the Bombers this year. And remember in Calgary when he came out and he beat the Bombers that one game in Calgary? So don't sleep on that, dude. But anyway, I want to see what kind of knowledge he sends to him going into this game.
Yeah, because this is like a carbon copy almost of 2007 for the Argos. But like you say, at least their backup has experience because Chad Kelly gets hurt, Kevin Glenn got hurt in that Eastern final, which cost us in the Grey Cup afterwards. And Dinwiddie didn't have any experience at all. And that game was still close. The Bombers still had an opportunity to beat Saskatchewan. It was just the interceptions did them in afterwards. So it'll be good. It'll be interesting because even the last Grey Cup they played each other, McLeod Bethel Thompson went out and Chad Kelly came in and had that last drive that put the Argos ahead.
Yeah.
Right. So Dinwiddie's done well coaching wise, and he's had his team ready. So I expect this even with Arbuckle there. Really, you just need Arbuckle not to make the mistakes, especially if the Argos D is playing, can play as well as they have against the Bombers again. You just need Arbuckle not to make mistakes. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it'll be a battle on both sides of the ball.
If Arbuckle can be efficient, I don't think that's a good thing. That's it. Just efficient.
Yeah, that's all he needs to be, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Who on the Argos roster gives you the most concern? I'm going to go with Jake Ceresna. That dude is a wrecking ball, a beast on the line, and he showed in the games against the Bombers. He's probably the number one factor why they got all those sacks. I think he had one sack game, and did he even have a multiple sack game against the Bombers? Most of them, I think both of them were 1 sack games. But the way he wrecks up that defensive line is crazy. And he's tied for the league lead in sacks from defensive tackle. Oh my goodness. So he really is worrisome. Like you said, 12 sacks in 2 games, 5 and 7 in the second matchup.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the Argos got some good players on offense. They got a good O-line. Kadeem Carey is obviously very good. Demetrius Coxey, who hasn't done a lot against the Bombers this year, but has looked good at times against other teams. But I'm more concerned about that D, and I had Jake Ceresna on my list as well. And thanks to the Elks for making that trade for Curly Gittens. I would have kept Ceresna on that one. But I'm also going to include Winton McManus. He's another wrecker at the linebacker position. And that whole D line, really, I picking one guy is just not fair because it's a bunch of guys. And that Florian or Malalde had a great game in that second game as well against the Bombers. So one of those guys opens things up for the other guy. It's not just, hey, like the Bombers, for the most part, it's Willie Jefferson, right? They got other guys that can get to the quarterback, but it all hinges on Willie Jefferson being disruptive enough. Whereas Toronto have a few more guys that can make plays, and it's not reliable or not relying, sorry, on just one guy to make that.
I can't remember who said it, but they said like Toronto has 7 guys who can legitly are like factors
Yeah.
that they rotate through. That's crazy.
Talk about that. And the funny thing is, you watch Toronto, even against Montreal, they gave up points. Even against Ottawa, they gave up points. But against Winnipeg, it's like they got their number. And this is where Buck Pierce is going to have to come out and shine. This needs to be a great play calling game by Buck Pierce and a great execution game by the offense.
Well, let's continue that thread with Buck Pierce. What do the Bombers need to do? Offense, defense, special teams. I think they have to be able to open up the playbook. Buck Pierce needs to confuse this defenses with motions, tons of different formations, using people where they aren't expected to be, overloading one side of the field to get advantage matchups. Like, use heavy set, but not just on the run.
Yeah.
Get that play action going so they'd have no idea what's coming next. Like, make it, I'm not saying make it a carbon copy, just take the plans from the last game and bring it to this game. Obviously, you have to find the holes on that Toronto defense, and there are holes in that Toronto defense. Look at the past 4 games that they've played against since they stopped the Bombers with 11 points. I think they're allowing like 33 34 points a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are holes to be had. And I'm sure Buck Pierce is just looking through that film, finding those holes. Because, he, like you said, Buck Pierce has to be a chess master. Again, he has to out strategize or out strategery or whatever it is. So, yeah, man, I say that's huge. Open up that playbook.
And it's funny because they go back to it and saying, I don't know what they have over the Bombers, but for the most part, the Argos gave up over 20 points a game, right? Looking back at their schedule. The only team besides Winnipeg, it was Saskatchewan, that they kept under 20. And I know I'm just looking at scores, so a bunch of those could have been, the other team's defense scoring points or whatever. But the thing is here, and we talked about this earlier this week with Buck Pierce and Dembski running out of the backfield. We didn't see that a lot this year. So throwing that wrinkle in, even in the West Final, now gets Toronto to be aware of it and be like, okay, they could be doing this, right? And Toronto probably would have been aware anyways, because there'll be, in this game, you have to be ready for everything, right? But this now gets them to think. The biggest thing, besides the play calling, that O-line, we just talked about it, needs to keep Claros upright. It needs to give Claros enough time, because if you give Claros some time, he will pick things apart and not make mistakes. Even in the 2 losses, besides the sacks, there was a lot of turnovers by the Bombers. We talked about the one interception that probably turned around that first game. The multiple fumbles. There was a few interceptions. It wasn't just the one in that game, right? There was another one in the other one. So turnover battle has gone Toronto's way in these games. So Winnipeg is going to have to flip that and win that turnover battle as well.
They do have to keep Caleros on his feet, because I'm not a huge, I wouldn't say I'm not a huge believer, but I'm not too scared of Toronto and their secondary. Like, other than, who is it, Amos?
No.
Who's a good halfback. But the rest of the secondary, come on. If there's no pressure on Zach Caleros, I think he can surgically take this team down. He does have to watch those linebackers, though. Like you said, McManus is there. They also have Dark Angelo, who led the team in tackles last game, and right behind him was Adeleke, the Sam linebacker. So they are a very active front 7. So you got to confuse them with different looks.
Yeah, keep them on their toes, because you don't. And then even I think earlier in this game needs to be possibly Oliveira, toting the load a bit to keep that D line from just pinning their ears back and going after it.
Yeah,
right. Because the biggest thing I think Toronto would probably want to do is stop this run right away and kind of make Winnipeg one dimensional. But again, that's where the O line comes into play in both sides. Get Oliveira those holes. get him pumping those legs early, and punishing that D line a little bit.
Yeah.
Which hopefully opens things up for Claros in this game. Because, man, just going back in those last two games, I do not like the amount of sacks.
If you got to call the first play of the game on offense, what would it be?
Even though I said it with running Oliveira, I think I'd take a shot downfield.
Oh, I use play action for sure.
Yeah,
they're gonna look for that run.
Yeah.
I'd put that thing in his belly, take it out, and go deep for Lawler.
Yeah.
Like, you guys paying attention? Let's see. Why not?
Yeah.
See, there you go. We're on the same train. Buck Pierce, you got that one. You're welcome. Defense. What do they need? Or are you good on offense?
Yep. Yeah.
Defense. What do they need to do?
I mean, obviously they've played the Argos very well. The defense in both games. We talked about the Argos didn't score much in either of those games, and one of them was a pick six, right? In that first game. No, did he take that back? Yeah, it was a pick six, right?
Yeah.
That interception? Yeah. So they've done a good job. They've kept in the first game only about 200 yards passing. Did I have that right? Yeah. So Toronto, I think, was under 200 yards passing. So they've stifled them. Kadeem Carey had decent games, had some good averages, but not enough running yards in terms of that. So just got to keep doing what they're doing. They got their guys. Willie Jefferson's going to have to be disruptive for himself. Argo's got a very good O-line, but you got a bit of an inexperience, not inexperience, but how do you want to describe Arbuckle? Not
the rust could be there. He hasn't been he hasn't had enough mileage on his legs to really know what he could do and with the confidence in him. Maybe is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, he has the experience, but not enough experience, really, and especially in a big game like this. And now the pressure is on your shoulders to kind of not mess things up, right? And obviously, if you're taking Claros versus Arbuckle, you're taking Claros 10 times out of 10 on this, right? As your quarterback in a start, if you wanted to pick one to start your Grey Cup. So they're going to have to disrupt him, throw him off his game a little bit, and make him make some bad decisions.
Yeah, they got to take Kadeem Carey out of there right away from the top. The offensive playbook can't be that much different. The foundation is there, what it is. He can't veer far from that. I'm sure they'll find some things that he likes to do, some tendencies. But you know what? Jordan Younger and Richie Hall have been here since he's been a player in the league. So they have all the tape. They have all the experience they need toe-to-toe with that guy. So, but don't overlook him.
No, exactly.
They'll get caught in that. So
that's the biggest thing. I think the Bombers went into the last two Grey Cups, especially the first one against Toronto, probably thinking it wouldn't be that tough. They would win the game, right? Then they thought last year, okay, we've learned our lessons. We know what to do. And unfortunately, some injuries kind of derailed them with Big Hill not being 100%, Dalton Schoen, and Dembski, right? So that kind of threw off a bit of their plans there. But I think this one, they're ready for almost that. They're going to have to be, and hopefully they are almost ready for anything. And that's a fact that now you're playing a backup quarterback in Nick Arbuckle, who played a bit this season, but really since Kelly came back, hasn't played at all.
So now that you have this middle of the road, not in regards to career years or anything like that, middle of the road in regards to playing time in the year, and if he's ready to go starter, what would you do? And this is not a question that I had on my paper. This is what I'm thinking when you were talking. What would you do? Would you blitz a guy off the bat, or would you sit back with the zone and see if he can beat you there?
I'd probably sit back because, I mean, look what they did with Trevor Harris. They didn't blitz him a lot. They sat back, and the guy's a veteran and a very good quarterback, and he had troubles finding things. And I know Saskatchewan receivers dropped a few balls here and there. So I think at first I would see what you can do with Nick Arbuckle. The only thing is I don't want him to get comfortable either, right? Because if he starts to pick it apart and starts to figure things out, then you start to blitz afterwards. I don't know if that ends up working, but yeah, I think I would test him first by hanging back and seeing what happens.
I'd love to see him send Evan Holm on a blitz, a halfback blitz where you don't see it out wide, maybe from his backside. Who knows? We'll see. I'd blitz a couple times, but from weird areas.
Yeah, something different. Not that stupid blitz up the middle.
Special teams. Well, I'm going to say Castillo has to be on his game. He has to shake those ghosts off from previous Argos games this year. He's 3-7 against the Argos this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, and based on what we were talking about before we recorded, field goal kicking based on these two games and the previous Grey Cup matchup, ugh, they gotta hit those field goals. Remember Boris Beatty in Toronto, 3 for
Yeah.
6. Mark Leggio, 1 for 2 with the block in the fourth quarter
Oh,
from
yes.
47 with 50
Yes.
seconds left.
Yeah, he's got to hit those. The biggest factor for me here, I think, is, and it's where I think they got a good leg up on us here, is the return game. Janarian Grant versus Lucky Whitehead. Janarian Grant's probably going to want to prove again what the Bombers are missing by not having him. And we just saw him take one back against Montreal as well. So I think the whole punting game and the coverage game, kickoff game needs to be sound for the Bombers here. And we saw last week, special teams wasn't great for the Bombers in terms of a block punt, a fake punt, and what was the
Fumble
other
putt.
thing? Yes. So
Alfred
they're
with a
gonna have
couple
to be.
good returns.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. Alfred has some good returns. Now, if you give that to Grant, who's having a special year,
He's gone.
he's gonna make you pay.
Janarian
So
Grant, man, he's so good. I was worried about him last week.
yeah. Yes, exactly.
Who will be the game breakers on offense, defense, special teams, and choose a Canadian if need be for the Bombers? You go first on offense.
I'm gonna go, and this will probably cover my Canadian as well. I'm gonna go with Brady Oliveira. Uh, Last week it was more about Kolaros and Kenny Lawler shining and carrying the team. I know Oliveira still had over 100 yards, but that was more later in the game. This week I think it'll be Brady kind of putting the team on his back, and he's talked about this, right? He's won a Grey Cup, but he was the backup, and now that he's been the starter, they've lost two.
Yeah.
So in his mind he wants to get it done, and I think he's just going to lay it all on the line come Sunday. So I expect a very big game from Brady.
Yeah. He's going to carry the rock for sure. And a lot of the load, hopefully. I'm going to go with Zach Caleros. He really looked good in mastering that offense in the field last week. I think I'll have to spread it more to multiple targets around the field. I don't know if those big balls, those bombs will be available, especially if they can't control that Toronto defensive line. I think his feet will come into play more with that Toronto defensive line. And not just in regards to getting first downs, but also just getting out of the pocket, maybe throwing on the run. Hopefully that'll open things up. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Zach Caleros in this one. He doesn't have to go again 304 touchdowns, 158.3. If it's inefficient, whatever. 15 for 20, 250 with a touchdown and no turnovers. I think that's great.
No turnovers is huge, right? Because even
Yes.
last year against Montreal, they had chances to put points up on the boards, and he ended up throwing interceptions in the end zone or in Montreal's end. So yes, avoid those altogether. Take those field goals if you have to. Don't press anything, but he may need to use Oliver out of that backfield depending on how this D line and pass rush of the Argos
Absolutely.
is getting to him.
Oliver might have to hold back and do some chip blocking there.
Yeah.
Defense, I'm going to go with Tony Jones, especially at the start of the game. I think they'll really try and incorporate a Kadeem Carey early in the game. So I think I have a huge hand in stopping that run in the middle. And I think Arbuckle will also probably be looking to get the ball out of his hand quickly early, maybe. So maybe some slants in the middle or a lot of whatever routes going inside into the middle where Tony Jones might be. They'll test him in the middle. So I'm going to say Tony Jones will be a game breaker in this game because he'll be able to shut down that run and hopefully shut down that pass when they test him.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna go with Willie Jefferson, because we need him. We need him to be a game breaker on that D line. He needs to be the main cog in disrupting
Yes.
Arbuckle. And we saw it last week against Harris. He had two knockdowns, right? At least in that game where his big wingspan got in the way of Trevor Harris, and Trevor Harris has the experience. So I'm hoping he can get to Arbuckle, and even if he doesn't get to Arbuckle, he does enough to make Arbuckle think about it and not throw because the arms are right in his face or right around him.
Yeah.
Which hopefully then opens up other guys to get into Arbuckle, and then helps the DBs back there if Arbuckle's getting pressure, get rid of the ball quicker than he needs to.
Just create some havoc.
Yeah.
Special teamer. I'll go Sergio Castillo. He's going to be back with a mission on this one, I think. silence the doubters from this year's previous games, like you mentioned earlier. Sergio Castillo. I think 3 for 3.
Nice. Right on. I'm going Jamison Sheehan. I'm going the other side because I think he'll be a big factor in containing Janarian Grant.
Yes, sir.
Even on the one that Grant took back last week, it wasn't a great punt. So yeah, we need Sheehan to be on his game, pinning Grant into the corners or to the side of the field, wherever. Just don't give him right down the middle where he has opportunity to go left or right on you, because he'll make you pay. So yeah, Jamison Sheehan needs to be on his game this Sunday.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Shout out. I hope he has a great game. Canadian, you hinted with yours, so I'll just do mine quickly. I'm gonna go with Tyrell Ford. I think he'll be able to read Arbuckle good on more than one occasion, hopefully. But I think he'll be able to get one pick on this guy, and it'd be sweet if he got a pick six on Arbuckle. But yeah, I think Tyrell Ford will have a great game, and not just getting a pick, but also he's in there batting balls down, especially when we're talking about being in the middle. He somehow works his way into the middle of the field and stop things there too on the hash mark. So I'm gonna go with Tyrell Ford.
Yeah, this would be a big game for. I know he's had a great season already this year, but a big coming out game for him, with an interception or a pick six or just being a force. Like having a home last game, couple big knockdowns. Tyrell Ford didn't really. He locked this guy down. You didn't hear his name a lot last week, so he did his job. So yeah, we'll see if Toronto wants to test him. I like our DBs. I like our DBs here, so I think they'll do well, and they've been doing well all year. Jordan Younger has called some great games with Richie Hall. So yeah, I expect a lot out of our defense this Sunday, and I expect them to deliver.
Bomber fans, put your comments down below. Answer any of these questions. Don't forget, smash that subscribe button. Thank you. Biggest takeaway from the Commissioner's State of the League address. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fluff in there, and hey, I did this and did that, but I think the biggest thing for me would have been the talk about U.S. expansion, and where it's kind of been on the table, but no one's really said anything about how it's going to happen or if it's going to happen, and he shot it down quickly, saying it's probably never going to happen, or not never, but he doesn't foresee it happening anytime soon and anything like that. So I'm okay with that. I'd rather the game stay in Canada, and build get that 10th franchise here and build it to even stronger than what it is before they start tinkering and moving down south. But that was interesting for me to hear him say no right off the bat, or flat out no.
Like, I gave this dude his flowers a couple weeks ago, but the sentiment or feeling I get from this league address personally is it's about damn time. I think he, like, especially coming out of the pandemic, I think he did some good things to stabilize the league. But I'm just repeating that from a couple weeks ago. In the end, I think he was starting to flatline. Yeah. And I think he felt that too. And good on him to be self-aware and get out of the way. And hopefully they find someone who's ready to pick that ball up and bring the league to next levels, because this flatlining thing can't happen anymore. Expansion or not. Like, who even talks about the global initiative anymore? Who talks about that? Who cares about that?
And what did it do? It brought in a couple punters, really, right? I know Chadrick Hansen came from Germany kind of thing, right? But for the most part, they just brought in punters from Australia.
Yeah, much respect, like you said, to Chadrick Hansen, Les Maruo, great players.
Yes, right.
It's not that you don't have great players that are global, but the amount of resources they put into that, when they just could have drafted global players and did something, like, it was too much.
Good idea, but not good execution on that. And like you say, it was not enough to really keep it going. So that, coupled with the stats debacle, he had some good moments. The ownership, like we talked about, the ownership right now is great. Probably the best it's ever been in the CFL. So hopefully they can build off of that and take this league, even the TV deal, to the US. It only showed games before the NFL started. There was no way to measure how many people were actually watching these games, which kind of sucks, because it's like, what's the point, right? You kind of want to know if it's working or not.
Yeah.
So, it's good. He did his job. He came in, did whatever, but yeah, next guy's got to step it up. Poor girl.
Let's move on to some Winnipeg Jets talk. Ooh, this team. One word to describe the team. You can go first.
I'm gonna go with pretty easy word, basic word. I don't know. I'm gonna go with a wagon, just because they are rolling. And every time I expect them to maybe take a step back, or like say the Rangers last night to beat them, they just go into Madison Square Garden and throttle the Rangers and just keep going.
That was crazy. That was crazy. Mark Scheifele with a huge game. I'm gonna go with dominant. First in goals, first in goal differential. I'm gonna quote Murat Atesh here. The Winnipeg Jets have the most wins, most points, most goals already said, top power play, reigning Vezina winner, he keeps going on, and current possibly Jack Adams candidate. Like, this team is dominant. So that's my word. What do you think is the number one reason why they're doing so well? For me, I know it's a simpleton kind of reason and it's not kind of flashy, but I say it all starts still with that 5-on-5 play. It was a staple of theirs last year, and they seem to really have completely committed. They've bought into it this year, no matter what situation they're in, behind, ahead, whatever. They're confident that they have Hellebuyck all world and that he'll be even better if they're committed defensively 5-on-5 on the ice. So, and that they have forward lines that are committed to that style, who played solidly, and six-ish defensemen who are also playing it well. So, yeah, I think that's the five. It starts with the 5-on-5 for me.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the line that everyone always wanted to break up as well with Connor and Shifley, right? And this is coming from on Twitter from or X, whatever it's called. Connor Rabchak from NatStat Tricks, sorry, NatStat Trick, which is a site. Connor, Shifley, and Velarde last 7 games, 5-on-5, 9 goals for, 1 against. Right, that's huge. And we were just talking about this a
Yeah.
week or two ago, how they were still giving up a goal or two here, right? Here and there. High danger chances, 27-11. Right. And the Jets are obviously they're 7-0 in that. So it's crazy to think that they needed these guys to buy in to play a little bit more defensive hockey.
Yeah.
And they've done it, but while keeping their offense at the same or better than it was last year.
It's
So
opened it up.
kudos, I'm going to give kudos to Scott Arneal, who, if I would have picked at the beginning the hiring process, I would not have picked him. I would have put him 100th on a list of 100 guys. But I'll equal on that because right now he got these guys to buy in. And we saw with Bonus a little bit last year, but it wouldn't last for very long. They'd have games where they would dominate and games where they just looked absolutely terrible. And especially the first half of the season was kind of, a very good start. But then, January hit and they kind of went downhill. But right now, this team is rolling. Everyone seems to buy in. Hellebuyck's playing well. The top line's getting it done, and other guys are pinching in.
Do you think they finished first this season?
Yeah.
Yes, but I really would like to answer that after the 20 game mark, which is in a week. Because they're really getting tested this week. Is they have this East Coast swing back to back with the Panthers, where they have to come home and they go back out to the East to play the Pens, and the Pens always give them trouble no matter what iteration it is. And then they finish with the division rival Preds, who are also on the brink with the 20 game situation of whether they're going to hit that reset button or not. So, those guys are going to be playing with a bit of urgency. So I think, yes, they'll be in first place, but damn, I would like to answer this one next week.
Yeah, I don't see why not, right? And like you say, there is obviously lots of factors this long season. Injuries are going to creep in at some point, knock on wood. But yeah, I mean, they finished top 3 last year, and we saw their season did not start off this way. It started off good, but not like this. And then they had a bit of a down spell, and they still finished top 3. So yeah, for sure, I can see them finishing first.
Are the Jets getting enough recognition around the league? It doesn't matter.
I think part of the problem is the way they went out of the playoffs last year, right? They got dominated and they got kicked out of the playoffs very quickly, and they looked like they did not belong. They looked like they weren't top 3. It looked bad. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are still like, "Oh, let's wait and see, let's wait and see." But I think they're getting more and more recognition. If they're the Leafs or someone like that, holy crap, they'd be planning the parade already, on TSN. But it doesn't matter. Just keep winning these games, and obviously they're not going to win 15 out of 16 games every time, for the rest of the season here, right?
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to get into a lull. But I think right now it's just like, who cares what anyone else thinks? Winnipeg hopefully is falling and back in love with this team, and the crowds will show that when they get back. But yeah, just keep it rolling.
Yeah, I totally agree. They are not getting enough recognition around the league, especially around the big media on social media. We see a lot of buzz about the Jets. Still a little bit of underground buzz about the Jets, but there's still a lot of buzz because our algorithms say Jets, so we're going to see that first thing in the morning. But uh, does it matter? I don't know, bro. Does it matter? Like, does that thing wear on people? Does that thing wear on Winnipeggers not to be seen in the main light when other teams who really suck are in the like limelight all the time, no matter what? Does it start wearing on team ownership and team employees that they keep getting kicked down at the end of media importance and not being respected and not being profiled when they know that can help attendance and they know that can help revenue? So no, it does not hurt on ice. I think those guys are focused. That's a different level. But I think on a different level that it does affect, or maybe it's just affecting me and I'm being a biatch.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It sucks, right? Because you want your team is 15-1. No other team has ever started 15-1.
History.
Exactly. Not even those dominant Oiler teams or Penguin teams or anything like that. Montreal teams, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, so you want a bit of that recognition, but at the same time, just keep winning. And who cares what anyone else
absolutely.
thinks at this point, right?
I got to say shout out to Tony Kornheiser on PTI for picking the Jets to beat the Rangers.
Oh, right on.
It's my favorite show. And obviously, he does not know me personally. Three Jets: Connor, Shifley, Ehlers on pace for 100 points. Do they all make it?
I'm going to go with 2 out of the 3. I do believe for the way Shifley and Connor have been playing this year and the feeding off each other, I think those two will make it.
I'm
Ehlers
gonna.
won't be far behind, but I still don't know if he'll make the 100. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think all three will make it. I think Velarde will start taking a bit of the load, and Connor will still play his pace. So I think it'll be Connor out of the three. And not to say the other two will have a bad year. Like Shifley's always a point a game, well, not always, but consistently a point a game player. And I think that's where he'll end up ish, maybe 90 around the season. And Ehlers, I think, around the same way, but I think Connor's the one that's going to break it. Jeez. Helly is on pace for 67 ish games. Is that too many? Maybe on the edge of too many? Like, I don't know how many games people expected Comrie to play, but I was expecting 15 to 20 max. So if we're at 67 ish, that's about 15. And I think if the Jets continue the 5-on-5 dominating play, it takes more of the physical toll away from Hellebuyck. You have to admit, like, it doesn't give teams sometimes it does. It doesn't give a lot of teams opportunities or good scoring opportunities where Hellebuyck has been scrambling that much this year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's borderline a little bit too much. I would like to see him around 60. Like if like you say, if if Comrie can play around 20, even a 22 mark, then keeps Helly down there. For me, it's a lot of it by the end of the season, right? Hopefully the Jets have kind of got a playoff spot wrapped up. I know positioning wise will probably be up in the air, but I don't want to see him play 10 of the last 12 games going into the playoffs, right?
If he doesn't have
want
to
see, yeah, I want to see that they can trust Comrie enough for him to go play those and keep his mark down. Because, like you say, he gave up 3 yesterday, and not saying they were bad goals or anything, but the Jets still managed to score 5.
Yeah.
Last week Hellebuyck allowed 1 goal in 3 games, so it made it a lot easier for the Jets. But it's nice when you know your team could, if I give up 3 today, hey, my team could still probably score at least 4 or 5 tonight. And then
They
it's
picked up
not
that
always going to
goalie
happen.
again.
Pardon me?
They picked up that goalie again.
Yeah, Kakinen, sorry.
Is that mind games? Is that GMs pulling the thing out of their pants and being like, yo, don't do that?
Well, they can send him down to the Moose directly, right? So without losing him again on waivers, so why not? But I like the young guys that were at the Moose with Milik and DaVincis back there. So I'd rather see those guys develop a bit. But I get it. If you need a guy to come up to the NHL, you're probably not calling one of those two up.
GM games are funny. I will always remember what's his name getting pissed over Dustin Penner.
Brian Burke.
Oh.
And what was it, Kevin Lowe? Or it was Kevin Lowe from the Oilers,
totally.
Right?
He was so pissed about that RFA thing. Oh my gosh.
That's
Benny.
fantastic.
Jets fans, put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget, smash that subscribe button. Benny, do you have anything to say to our friends?
You know what? Just thanks a lot for listening. Have a good week. Go Jets, go, and especially go Bombers, go. Let's bring home that cup.
Yeah, I can't wait. I hope to see some of y'all at the Grey Cup. Don't be shy. Come say hi. Let's have fun. And go Bombers, go.
Hey, friends and neighbors, don't forget to check us out online on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Ray Benny Sports. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell us what you think.